Hi guys, what's up? I'm Christina from Sermondo. Welcome to Sermondo Talks. My today's guest is going to be Maher, who's the founder and chief idea officer at Cartology. Let's say hi. I'm here today with Maher. He's living in Cincinnati, Ohio, and he's the Chief Idea Officer at Cartology, formerly known as Matters of the Cart. But I think you recently went through a rebranding phase, right?
Yes, that is correct. I'd originally started the company back in 2010 as an e-commerce business, and around 2016 made that transition into doing freelance and consulting work, and then started the agency and started to grow from there. And that rebrand really just, I think, embodied the work that we're doing a little bit better. Kind of upped the profile of the business and really spoke to the idea of growing brands on Amazon versus just doing a project here and a project there. We're really trying to be as full service as possible.
That sounds very good.
It was
What
exciting. It was almost
exactly?
like a new kid being born in a way. Just something changing from one thing into the next, and seeing people's response from that. It was a very positive response, which is cool. So
That's good. I'm happy for you. I'm happy. I'm happy that works out. But what I'm interested in is what exactly does a chief idea officer do? Like I've never read that title before, so I'm curious.
the the branding guy that I was working with came up with the name Chief Idea Officer, and it's really just a different way of saying CEO. Um, so it's not. I don't know if it's really that intriguing, but it's a little bit different. And I think the point is not just that I'm the founder or the originator of the company, but I'm really trying to get us all to work as a team. It's just a leadership role is really what it is. But I'm glad that it stuck out a little bit.
Yeah, it does. I think differentiating a little bit is always good, and always to be like a little bit different from the others. Which brings me directly to my next question. What would you say differentiates Cartology from other agencies? Like if I was an Amazon seller, why should I choose you and not another agency?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I actually really enjoy answering that. I would say the main thing that differentiates us is our mission statement. So, our mission statement is super simple, it's to serve. And the way that we serve others is by helping them grow their brand on Amazon. But we want people to be profitable because we want them to succeed. We base our success in our cost structure with clients. So when they succeed, we succeed. Um, and if they're hurting, then we're also hurting in a way. Um, and so we want them to succeed, and we want them to last a long time as well. We're about the long game, absolutely. So when it comes to doing things that are outside of Amazon's terms of service, we always recommend to not do that. People want to get a short-term gain, but they're sacrificing the longevity of their account.
So
When it
Black
comes,
Hat is not an option for you.
never an option. And I know that it can be tempting for people sometimes. Even when there's gray areas, we really are saying it's just best to, you know, be around and not be one of those people that there's gray area where Amazon could say, yeah, you did this and you weren't supposed to do that. Just play by the rules. I'm a big believer that nice guys don't, or nice ladies don't finish last. I believe that's a big core of what we do is in the culture of our agency is treating each other with respect, treating our clients with respect, helping when we can. Not everything's about the almighty dollar. We obviously want to be profitable as a business, but we want to give. But yeah, we're absolutely about building a solid relationship with them. And like I said, we want to be profitable. So in our pricing structure, we often get a percentage of sales. Um, if a client is getting great sales, we're getting that item or that part of the business that's helping us to be profitable as a brand. So we partner in that sense as well, and not just hey, hand over this much money each month and we'll see if we get your results or not. Like, we want you to get results, we want you to be successful.
about the pricing structure, you say that you're also involved like in the success of your clients. That means you work partly on commission or solely on commission. How does it work?
It really depends upon the business. Most of the times we have a flat rate retainer that helps us cover our costs. And then the percentage of sales is something that helps us to be profitable. But yeah, that's typically how we structure it. If you're a more established business, and we're looking to grow your business, we're pretty flexible on that. Like, we want it to be equitable on both sides. So we want you to feel like we're a partner, but we also don't want you to feel like we're just out to raid your pocketbook either.
I was gonna ask, like, who's your typical client? So at first I thought maybe you're more for the beginners, but now it sounds like you're also working with advanced businesses. So
I've done work for individuals that have a brand or that have a business and maybe are kind of just starting out. And if anything, I'm happy to I've had a lot of great people invest in me. They didn't, ask for a dime from me, but they built into me. Like, my accountant, he's an incredible dude. He'll meet me for a beer, and yeah, he does my taxes, which is kind of a necessary evil, but he has helped me to be a better entrepreneur, to be a better business owner. And I'm just so thankful to have him in my life. So if there are people that are out there and they're just kind of getting started, that's not really Cartology's ideal client, but I'm happy to help those people out. Like, if you're watching this right now and you just have a couple questions and you're wanting to get started, or, you're still new in the venture, reach out. I'm happy to share the wealth of knowledge that's there.
What would you say was your best moment during your time at Cartology, or Matters of the Cart, because Cartology is like a baby, so it's really
yeah, it is a baby. There have been some big wins for me, I think. I remember when I had first started selling, I was growing this business on eBay while I was working a full-time job. And I was also teaching music lessons too. I just hated the full-time job that I was at. And so I was so desperate to get out. And it was a very difficult time, but it was a year's time of where I was able to say, hey, this business is successful. I can now do this and be an entrepreneur, be an e-commerce seller full time, which is great. And I think if for anyone out there that is getting started or is interested, I'd say find a way to get started without having to bring in an income for yourself, because you can make a couple mistakes in the beginning and you're not so reliant upon that money to pay your bills. Sometimes, maybe it's not an option. I know that's kind of different in the startup world. You get money from investors, but I've always been bootstrapped. So I had to do that in a way. And, but I would say a great moment was when I was able to leave and then was able to start selling on Amazon. Cause I'd always thought, okay, once I get around to it, then I can do that. And that quickly became, 70% of my sales. And that was a really, really exciting time. So I do remember that. And I would honestly say just even this past year with Cartology has been huge. We have made a lot of structural changes. We are, creating processes from scratch to benefit our business and to automate and get certain things in a routine as much as possible, so that the things that need a real human touch, like advertising strategy or marketing aspect of your brand on Amazon and representing that, we're able to give that human touch. So I'm kind of most excited about what I'm doing at this very moment. There's also been seeds that we've been planting that I'm starting to see come to fruition as well. And that's a cool place to be.
Definitely is. What was your worst moment then?
I'd say that probably one of the worst moments was what felt like the worst moments at the time was when I was going through that transition from seller to agency. So many unknowns. And I just felt really trapped. And one of the things I realized, there's a couple things. One was my success as a business was where I had invested my worth as a person. So, and then even looking back, I was just talking with my wife about this, and she was like, even when things were going well, you were kind of like, oh, I'm not doing this right. Or, you were still really stressing about stuff. And that was a tough period because I really realized on a personal level that I was trying to make my path exactly what I felt like it needed to be, instead of um, allowing God to say, like, you need to just like let go, do the work, but like there's a plan that's in place. Don't try and figure everything out. And that was a huge, it was what felt painful at the time, but I'm so glad that it happened, because just as a, you think about a, an artist or a potter, anyone that is having to create something, there's a period of uncertainty where maybe you don't know exactly where you're going. Um, sometimes you're a piece of metal that's being hit with a hammer, and that doesn't feel great if you're that piece of metal. I mean, if you're about it from a metaphorical standpoint, I don't actually believe that pieces of metal have feelings, but you're being battered and shaped into the thing that you're going to be. And you may not know what that thing is, but you trust that it's something that's purposeful and that is going to have an impact. So that was one of my worst, but also one of my best times too, looking back, because it was so difficult, but it was so pivotal for me too. And I think anyone who believes or is chasing after happiness in their life, I think you're going to always lose, because happiness is an emotion. Emotions are fleeting. I don't know how I always end up on more philosophical stuff. Maybe that's just my personality, but if you're going and you're chasing after that, you're chasing after something that doesn't exist. You have to learn to be fulfilled in the tough times and in the happy times. And just getting things continually handed to you doesn't build character, and character is what outlasts everything.
Yeah, I think so too. But I think it's nice that you're so philosophical. What's the word? What's the English
Philosophical.
word? Philosophical.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that, because that means that you reflect a lot, which is what I want you to do now. Reflect a little. If you could hire a famous person to work for your company, who would that be and why?
Famous person. How famous? Could it be like a really well-known famous person, or could it be like a semi-famous person?
It could be anyone in the whole world. It can also be semi-famous.
Okay. Man, if I could hire someone, I would want to hire. I always believe that you can teach some skills, but I want someone that's got a good personality. I'll just say the first person that came to mind. I would want to hire Charlie Day. He is in It's All Sunny in Philadelphia, and he just geeks me out on that show so hard. It's so funny. I know a lot of people, there are a lot of shows that I like that some people are like, oh, that's a really annoying show. Like there was a show back in the early 2000s called The Andy Milonakis Show. People might remember it, but it was this guy that he was in his mid 30s, but he looked like he was a late teenager. And he would just go and prank people. And I thought that was hilarious. So I guess Charlie Day is the person that I would pick. I would want to hire him to be funny and crazy, and hopefully he would also get some work done too. I don't know if productivity is the number one thing that would happen, but yeah, I guess that's who I would pick.
I'm already at my last question.
Okay.
Can you give 3 tips to any Amazon seller out there? 3 tips that come to your mind.
Yes. So the first, I have one in my head. I guess the first thing I would say is just consume as much information as you can. So read a lot. If you, I don't really do well working and listening to podcasts. I've done it before, but it's not something I regularly do. But if any way you can consume information and apply that to your business, then I think that's definitely going to help you. The second thing I would say is to really get comfortable with the data that you have available to you. And I never really consider myself much of a data person, but the more that I interact with it, the more I realize that I am, because I find myself really digging deep and saying, okay, like, again, the philosophical part, like, what does this mean? So I see that a product, I was just talking about this with someone on my team earlier, there's a product that's getting a lot of impressions and it's getting clicks, but it's not getting sales in an advertising campaign. And so we talked about, that tells me that the keyword is relevant to people, but there's a reason they're not converting. And so that leads me back to, what does a listing look like? What are some issues that we're seeing there? So I'd say get comfortable with that data and reading that and turning it into a helpful strategy for you. And the last thing I would say is experiment. Don't be afraid to experiment. There are new, advertising targeting methods that have come out. I don't know that anyone is an expert on those because they're so new, but don't be afraid to experiment. Test, especially when it comes to advertising. Start an auto campaign. If you've made some changes to it and it doesn't really get you the result you want, stop it and try again. Experiment with different things and don't be afraid to test stuff. If you have a listing that is really performing well sales wise, maybe leave that alone while you tinker with some other stuff. But if you feel like something could be better, it probably could. So experiment, give it a little bit of time, test new copy for 2 weeks, and then go back and collect data and determine, what it's telling you, and let that help be your guide. I mean, you won't know really unless you try. A lot of people want to know what's the market and how big is this, and how well is this going to perform. And we can give you as many estimates as we want, but we just won't know until it's actually on the market and we see people respond.
And experts are only becoming experts because they try also. So
yeah, I mean, I've said that I'm an Amazon expert before, and I know that I have a very high level of knowledge on the platform. But is anybody really an expert? Maybe, but yeah, I mean, we're trying things out that are new, and we're just, I think, getting a handle on some of the newer things that are out there. And yeah, you won't know unless you actually try it. So, give something a try and then review the data to see what it tells you.
Okay, perfect. Is there anything else that you want to get out before we finish?
I would say to people, don't let circumstances determine or deter you from your focus. Figure out what that means for you. But, if you're focused on something, continue to be persistent. You can't choose when things are going to pay off.
All right, guys, thanks for watching. That was my interview with Maher from Cartology. You can find his listing and hundreds of other service providers who specialize in helping Amazon businesses from all around the world on Sermondo.com. You can check it out. I put the link in the description. Have a nice day.